Welcome to a very special ATX TV event. I'm Caitlin McFarland. This is Emily Gibson, and we're the co-founders of ATX TV. And I say special event, not to be saccharine or cheesy, but truly because this show and this panel hits very close to our hearts and our home.
So true. Not only is this event extremely ATX TV, and that it's our first official panel with one of our founding advisory board members, Richard Linklater, but it's also very Austin-centric in that we're getting to spotlight some amazing organizations that are based right here in our hometown.
Who would have thought that Rick's first panel with us would be virtual and unscripted?
2020 has given us a lot of things we didn't see coming.
Fair point. But truly, as a lot of you may know, we believe in the power of story, and we specifically believe in the power of television and the difference it can make. And this show does that in very big ways. I might be a sucker for any show about animals, cue the ATX mascot. But this show also brings together very big causes, issues from therapy and rehabilitation, mental health, incarceration. It's kind of spectacular, and I can't wait to hear from EPs, directors, and rescuers and how they made it happen and what we can do to be a part of it now.
Same here. And you know who agrees with us on all things animals? An ATX TV alum that we adore, and our moderator for this panel, Variety's Danielle Turchiano. Come on out.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we're so glad. We're going to go away and let you get started.
Well, thank you, Emily. Thank you, Caitlin. As they said, I'm Danielle Turchiano. I'm Variety's Senior Features Editor of Television. I'm also kind of the unofficial dog editor, so this panel has a very special meaning to my heart as well. And obviously we're here for that animal rescue show, which is streaming now on CBS All Access. I want to bring out first the executive producers and directors. So let's start with Richard Linklater, as they mentioned.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Bill Guttentag. Hi, Bill. Thanks for coming. Executive producer Naima Raza.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
And now I also want to bring out some very important rescuers, and as I call them in the trade industry, on-screen talents. We have Alayne Ballantine. Hi. And Laura Donahue. Hi, welcome guys. Thanks for doing this. So I want to start honestly with everybody who's an EP first, filmmakers first, only because this spans such a big swath of the animal industry. And I'm curious, you know, we have people here who are very specifically working with dogs, but I'm curious what your inspirations were to expand beyond dog rescues and look at, you know, this wide berth of pigs and cattle and just all across animals.
Well, speaking personally, this whole show actually all started with the pigs. Yeah, we expanded into dogs. It was just personal. I had met Dan at Central Texas Pig Rescue. I had one pig. We ended up taking in 3 rescues from Dan, but he told us a lot about our pig. I was just fascinated with his kind of pig behaviorist, you know, rap. And I just thought, that's fascinating. So really, that's where the show started. I talked to a friend of mine, Julia Eisenman, and I was like, does your company do reality? I just met this really cool thing. I think it's, you know, I don't think in TV terms. I really don't. You know, I'm a scripted film guy, but I just thought that is such interesting characters. And I love the passion and the fact that at the rescue, all the pigs had names and the volunteers were so committed. I just saw a lot of passion and commitment. And I thought that's a culture worth seeing. You know, worth sharing. I think it was just the impulse to tell a story, even though I knew it wouldn't be scripted. I thought these are characters. This is a story, and I love all the pigs, and I think people need to know more about them. So, cut to, you know, maybe it was almost a year later where we're really getting down to the nitty gritty, and it was like, let's expand this. And it's like, yeah, I met all these there's other rescues and other, you know, it expanded rather quickly. And Bill and Naima came on board and really took this show to what it really meant to be. But it really did just kind of start with the pigs. But I mean, we love all animals. I was so happy to, you know, I don't know what we were thinking. Maybe the show could all, you know, every week, it would be a lot more pig drama, you know, Meerkat Mansion or, you know, whatever that is. You know, it would have been
that spinoff, obviously. That's
yeah, but I'm so happy, you know, with where it ended up. I mean, we could keep going. Obviously, there's so many stories, so many wonderful people in this world, so many incredible animals to learn a lot about and hang out with. So that's my wrap on kind of where it started.
Mhm. So then, Bill and Naima, let's talk about how you guys got involved and how your past documentary work maybe helped here or maybe didn't really prepare you for what you were doing here at all.
Well, as Rick said, I was introduced to a mutual friend and thought, wow, there's some really compelling stories here. And I think we're always on the lookout for compelling stories. And, I've done some pretty dark stories, on things like, the drug war and rape of Nan King and, some pretty serious stuff. But, I think what makes, I hope, those films powerful is they have compelling stories. Like whether you're doing something on like civil rights movement, which I've done, you're looking for people with passion or trying to change the world. I mean, that's what makes the civil rights movement such a moving story. There was a big obstacle, they fought it, and they changed the country in many ways. And I think there's similarities here. These are full of passionate people who are trying to change, the world. I mean, just, if you look at Austin Pets Alive, for example, where Laura's from, if you think about that, when we got into researching this, I didn't know that most dogs and cats that go into shelters are killed after a few days. I mean, euthanized. That was news to me. And then, Laura's organization with Ellen Jefferson decided, well, why should that be? Why don't we try to save all these dogs and cats? And they saved tens of thousands of them. And Austin is a no-kill city. It's really remarkable. And so when you hear a story like that, you're saying, well, gee, I feel privileged to be able to try to tell this story. And I think a national audience will also connect with it as well. So I think at the end of the day, we're looking for compelling stories about compelling characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing I would add to that, so I was brought into the project via Bill and Julia, as Rick mentioned. I think a lot of the way that we learned about this community in Austin was really organic, and in that sense, it's really documentary. It's not, I think there's, I come from journalism, and a lot of the work we did was journalism. We're learning from one source about another place. So when we were at Austin Pets Alive, we met a vegan activist who we follow in another episode. Ellen Jefferson, who works with Laura, Austin Pets Alive, and spearheaded really that initiative, is married to an equine vet. So we found ourselves, going over and learning about the horses that way. So I think this was documenting a community. It's episodic, it's anthology, but really it grew in an organic way. And I would say that I had not filmed with so many animals before. And pigs, which were our inception, were perhaps the most, among the more diva of our characters.
Least cooperative. I will vouch.
Least cooperative. That's
Yeah.
the word for it.
There were times you just had to smile. I mean, if you're sitting in the muck with a pig and trying to get the animal's point of view. We have a lot of animal point of view in this shot, in this series. We're really low. There's sort of a convention in film and TV where you don't want your characters to look in the camera. But, and there's some good reasons for that. But we love the idea of animals looking in the camera. And so we did a lot
of. We shot on their. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a lot of low level stuff. And, being in there with the pigs, the camera's low and they're wandering in front of you, you just have to smile.
I'm actually glad you guys brought that up already, because that was one of my questions, just in terms of, when you're shooting people, they've come to expect this at this day and age, what it means when there's a camera in their face. Animals, not so much, I would imagine. So I'm curious what some of the challenges were shooting animals and not having them get completely distracted by the cameras, especially in certain environments, like when you were with Alayne or when you're with Laura, with a dog that maybe needed a little bit more comfort. Were there things that you had to consider, things that you had to do just to make sure you were not completely disrupting the animals' environments?
Well, I mean, that may be something that Alayne and Laura can speak to a bit, but I can say from our point of view, we're sort of real reality. We're capturing things as they are. So we're watching things unfold in front of us. So when, we're with someone like Alayne, who's, in the prison with a dog, you know, I mean, Alayne was doing her, you know, training of another prisoner with their dog. I mean, we're just sort of following the action. And I realize that it's probably distracting to have a camera around, but if you really care about what you're doing, I found this in so many situations. If you really care about what you're doing, you sort of get pulled into what you're doing and you forget a bit about the camera there. And we're trying, look, we went into situations we thought were moving and powerful, and hopefully the people working in them thought that way and they forgot about us. But maybe you can ask Alayne how she felt having the camera around.
Yeah, having a camera was definitely an interesting experience, especially when animals don't necessarily behave how we think we would want them to on camera. I believe we had a dog try to like run out of the little yard that we were trying to train him in when they were filming us. And that's just what working with animals is. So I think having the cameras there really gave us the chance to show like how vulnerable it can be to work with these animals, because they're not people and you can't control them and things happen, you know, dogs get out, and the cameras caught all that. So it was really a nice mixture of like a structured film environment versus working with animals, which is a much more natural sort of thing.
Laura,
I know that when we, sorry.
No,
I was gonna say when we filmed with Chica was at that time, you know, she had just been rescued and she was a little nervous. She had her pups and she was very protective of them and of Laura actually. And so Chica, you know, she had, we thought maybe been abused by a man, right? And so we tried to actually have a female DP out for that shoot. We did just a lighter footprint. So we did try to accordion in and out with the animals, but I would say that most animals, you know, they're distracted more by the people than by, you know, they don't know, or maybe they know and they are ready for, you know, their camera ready, but they're less reactive to that device and more around the people that are entering their habitat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I was actually going to ask you guys about that specifically because I think everyone can see that that's Chica right there. So spoiler alert. Yeah. Laura does still have Chica, and look at that. She doesn't have the muzzle on anymore. She's totally calm. Laura, I'm curious, do you feel like the filming experience with her, how did that affect the way that you guys bonded? I mean, obviously she's sitting there right next to you, like she's your protector, but.
Yeah, well, I did use it as a weapon against my husband because I said, listen, this thing's going to be on TV, and do you want to be the guy that like put her out on the streets? No, it was such a great experience because, like Naima said, they used a female, you know, I don't know, the person that holds the camera, you know, in the initial filming so that she would feel more comfortable. And then, you know, when they came to the house, we did spend, like, they didn't really rush the process. And we just spent a lot of time with them, just like throwing treats at her crate. So she would just take her reactivity from like a 10 to like a 7 so that we could talk and film and it wasn't too distracting. So she, it was really great because I feel like we authentically got all of the raw stuff, but the producers didn't add to her anxiety. So it was really awesome.
Yeah.
And yes, we are like ridiculously
That's great. She's so calm. She's just like enjoying her moment in the spotlight. I think that's great.
I mean, she continues to like progress. We had friends over a couple weekends ago on our patio, and it was the first time, you know, I brought her home end of January, and it was the first time that I was able to let her out unmuzzled with strangers. And
wow.
So
yeah,
big deal. Big deal.
Well, I have a ton of dog questions, but before we dive too deeply into those specific episodes, I do want to go back because, as Richard said, this all started with pigs. So I do want to actually throw to a quick clip of the episode of Body Positive Pig Pageant. Because after you guys all watching at home see this, I have some questions. There were some surprises in this episode. So let's roll that clip.
So this is a body positivity celebration for pigs and for people. We are going to bring up last year's winner, the beautiful and talented Charlotte and her mom, Sue.
All right, welcome Charlotte. She's beautiful. Wow, look at that. She's got a little hustle on her. Okay. There's a good spin. Well, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Charlotte. There she goes. All right. That looks like Mushu. All right.
He looks absolutely dazzling. Good boy. Welcome. Come on, baby. He is a great sitter, phenomenal sitter. Do any of your dogs sit this well? Oh my God.
I think he just realized he's on stage. Who are all these people? That's a circle. Takes no geometry. I don't know if you know that. How long did that costume take? I assume you didn't buy that on Amazon?
We actually made it last night, last minute.
Okay. Althea Lorraine coming in, navigated that step very well. Do you think Althea Lorraine would come all the way over to this other side so we can see that strut?
Yeah, we're ready to do our turn on the pig walk.
Let's bring it.
Woo. Can you sit? Sit. Sit. Good girl.
So seeing that clip, coming out of that clip, I'm curious what the most surprising element for you guys as filmmakers was when you stepped in to film a pig pageant, because, you know, just to speak completely selfishly about myself for a second, I had no idea that it would be so inclusive and so focused on let's celebrate all shapes and sizes and colors of a pig.
Well, let's acknowledge that really grew out of just getting to know Tracy and Dan and what they were doing. We were trying to, first we thought it'd be one episode of Pig Rescue. And then we realized, well, remember, we've forgotten this now, but they host these really imaginative, successful fundraisers. And the one we were building up to was on Valentine's Day. They do these Valentine's Day where they give these, I don't know, it's really funny. So we thought we were building up to that. But then the more we got to talking to him, we got into it, and it was like, the pig pageant, we're really the pig pageant. And then that ended up being the great springboard to get to know, to really go out into the pig community, to see, how pigs live with all people outside the rescue. You get all the home pets. So it was wonderful the way that just evolved. And then at some point we looked at each other, and I think we have 2 episodes here. We've got, the pageant's probably its own. If we build that up, it's the only of our 10 episodes. It's the only one that, to be continued, see what happens, cliffhanger, the pig pageant. So, but anyway, it was crazy. It's just all, it's documentary. That's for sure. You just got a bunch of cameras going. Anyway.
Yeah, by the way, to fold back on your earlier question about working with animals, when animals don't behave, it turns a liability into an asset. Like, one of the scenes that, that Rick directed that I just loved, was trying to get the pigs into their cars, right? And so, they don't really go in their cars the same way your dog hops into the car. It's a great scene.
Not at all. And I'm really proud. Between those 2 episodes, you will learn everything you need to know if you're thinking about having a pig in your family. Between those 2 episodes, it is the best crash. In that 1 hour of those 2 episodes, you will know that's the best primer you'll ever have of what it's like to have a pig in your family. Moving them around, feeding them, just the demands, the rewards, all of it. So it was really cool to share that experience that every pig owner will tell you is quite unique, quite challenging, and you learn to just live with it. But it was fun but it was so cool to me to see people who take it so damn seriously. I thought it was pretty funny, in the body positivity pig pageant. I mean, they're making a very direct political point, about how pigs are treated, but we thought it was funny. I mean, it's real, but I don't know. It has an upbeat, funny tone, which I think everyone attending has that kind of, there's a humor to it.
Yeah.
A certain lightheartedness to it.
Yeah. There's a joyousness to it. And certainly it was interesting to see how, different people and the pigs and, whose hopes and dreams are being fulfilled by the victory or not. And, and I think that, for us, just we were really flexible on the day of the pageant, just knowing, okay, we assigned one camera to just be pig level all day, tail our camera out, one of our cameramen, just sat at pig level the entire day, and just rolled with the pigs, and it was fun. It was great when we didn't know what was going to happen, so we were really ready for various eventualities. But my favorite bit of that of Rick's episode of one of Rick's episodes of the Body Positive Pig Pageant was the shower scene. I'm just seeing the different baths that happen, and Charlotte the pig's house versus some of the others, Barbara's house. It's just very different lifestyles of a pig. It was great.
Yeah. And it kind of, I mean, I'll say this, it felt like it opened a door to see what other animal pageants are out there that we don't know about. Was that ever something you guys looked into for this show, like as a theme, beyond the pigs?
We're looking for pageants. We're looking for compelling stories and some dramatic stories. By the way, when I heard the words body positive pig pageant, I felt like I'm there, I mean, and so I mean, this is kind of what we're trying to be authentic to the stories that we found. I mean, that's a thing to remember. I mean, there's, these are such moving stories that we found, with Alayne's and Laura's and everyone else's, and we weren't trying to slap our vision of it onto what's there. I mean, this is something that you see all the time in, so-called reality TV, that someone has a vision and, you're playing this part and you're playing that part. In our case, we thought there was drama, and moving stories there throughout. So we just went there. So yeah, so that's why we're so, look, we're so fortunate. We didn't create that pageant. In fact, they had one the previous year, and one of the contestants was back, to see if she could regain her crown, and so we just found it there, and we're fortunate that, we were able to film it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking to, the emotion and the storytelling, Bill, one of the episodes too, Alayne's episode, the Paws in Prison one, that's a program that I would imagine you can't just, anybody off the street just can't gain access and come in and work with everybody or film everybody. So I was hoping you guys could talk a little bit about, how you found the program and how you got permission basically to go in and document.
Well, I mean, look, there was a big team that was working on this. Our producer Amy did, an amazing job of trying to get in there. And I mean, look, people are sort of naturally reticent, I think, when you say you want to come and film. I mean, we heard about the program. We thought it'd be a moving story to do. And I think we just had to tell folks that's what we were doing. And I think we kept a small footprint, and we just wanted to capture the stories. Look, there were many powerful stories of the women in prison. I mean, we're fortunate to get Alayne's story and some of the others in there. But once we're in there, I think you're building trust. I think it's like anything else. You just want to build trust. And that's what I hope that we did in order to capture the stories. And when we capture the story with Alayne and Kimber and the relationship there was a really powerful relationship. Look, I mean, I hope, Alayne doesn't mind me saying this, but, a theme of this series is that, people rescuing animals and animals rescuing people. And I think that sometimes it was, a little bit elliptical how that was, and sometimes it was very direct. And I never felt like it was more direct than with the Paws in Prison program, because the women tell you that directly, I'm saving these dogs and these dogs are saving me. I mean, would you agree with that, Alayne, or have a different view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that was painted on one of the walls in the dorm, literally. Was that I came here to save animals and ended up saving myself. So absolutely, that is a huge part of that program.
So tell us a little bit more about the program, Alayne, just in the sense of how long you actually work with the dogs, if you are training one to get one in your room and that sort of thing, because it feels like no matter how long it is, you're going to bond with that dog. And I mean, as we see your journey, like you really did bond with her. And I'm curious, like if part of the training is teaching yourselves how to distance because you might have to say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. So women apply for the program. If they're at the facility in Lockhart, they can apply to be a part of the Paws in Prison program. And then basically, as you're moved into that dorm, it's a participation thing. So as you start participating and working with the dogs, eventually, sometimes in weeks. I got my first dog after, I think, 20 days after moving into the dorm. You can have a dog, you know, comes from a shelter, they bring you a dog, and that dog is with you always. 24/7, they are in your room. If you go somewhere, the dog is with you, you know. If not, it's in the room, but you always have that responsibility. And that's huge. So you undoubtedly bond with any of the dogs that are brought in. I worked with quite a few dogs before getting Kimber, and there is a bond there. I think we're both in a very vulnerable situation. These are rescue dogs that have not come from great homes always. We are very much in the same spot, and these dogs get put into your cells with you, and of course that bond happens. And the distancing part comes with adoption of, okay, this is what is best for the dog, and it's best for me because it means that I can save another dog. Another dog can be brought in off the streets, you know, and I can create that bond again. So it's not necessarily always like the most painful experience of your life. It's really beneficial.
Okay.
If I could just throw in one more addendum to that. We filmed with, again, our really amazing producer, Amy Martinez, who really set the whole thing up as an Austin-based producer, extraordinary woman who's just fantastic. But we filmed at the Lockhart shelter where you see these dogs, and these dogs are literally on death row for dogs. I mean, it's really remarkable. You see those dogs walking out of death row, which is so sad. But then, you know, it's almost like, you know, these dogs have had pretty rough existence, but then they walk in and find someone like Alayne, you know, their life is just remarkably changed for the better, you know, and I think that there's just something fundamentally powerful about that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great setup for our next clip, which is actually a look at Alayne and her bond with Kimber. So let's roll that clip.
Find it.
Good girl.
Good girl. Good job. Good job, puppet.
Call her to you. There we go. And then wait for the sit. Bam.
I've heard the plan with Kimber is for her to go with Brenda after Brenda leaves.
Alayne's been Kimber's handler since day one, but with her scent work training, she could make a really nice companion for Brenda, who is diabetic. I just don't know yet where Kimber's gonna end up.
It is hard seeing Kimber bond with another person. Kimber, did I ever tell you that I missed you? Every day of my life that you're not with me. I want Kimber to be happy. But of course there's that part of me that just says, well, I mean, Kimber is happy with me too, you know? And I'm happy with Kimber, and, you know, what about me? So, it's hard. It's difficult.
As we can all see, their bond is still very strong. Kimber is at home with Alayne now, very comfortable. I'm curious, you know, you've talked a lot about the emotion and the bond already, but I am curious, separate from the specific bond that you made with Kimber or any of the other dogs before her, what do you feel like the program gave you that is something that you're still kind of carrying through your life now, even though you're not still in the program?
That's a good question. The program, first of all, really made you kind of assess what your impact was on other people and definitely other creatures in the world. You know, when you get incarcerated, you know, it really cuts you off from anything going on in the world. Even if you see news or hear news or see your family or hear from your family, there's still a detached sort of feeling there. And being in the Paws program, you really get a direct like experience with something that is meaningful and something that is important, you know, and you can see, okay, I'm helping this dog, you know, I'm training them. We work with lots of more aggressive dogs, things like that, dogs who need our help. And it really helps you kind of connect with something outside of yourself. And women who, and anyone who is incarcerated, that's hard to do. It's hard to have enough trust in yourself to think that you can help something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and the Paws program does that. The Paws program creates that ability in small steps to say, okay, maybe I'm not ready to help, you know, help the world. I'm not ready to take on the world, but I trust myself enough and I have enough the ability to feel that I can do something. And that really helps the ladies build self-esteem. It helps them build responsibility, lots of things that grow into really positive habits after they're released.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like that's a common thread in a way through most of the, if not all of the organizations, just in terms of the way that you guys have already spoken about. You're helping animals, but the animals are helping people as well. I'm curious if you found shooting in Austin, especially Richard, for you who shoots in Austin all the time, if you found there is something unique to the spirit or the tone of the way that people speak about animals in that city compared to others. And I will just say, I want to preface this by saying, you know, it is such, I come to Austin and I love it for its barbecue. It is such a barbecue town. And then you guys went and said, wait a minute, there's also some real vegan activism here and we want to show all sides.
Yeah, I'm always proud as a lifetime Texan. I'm always proud to show other parts of Texas that people wouldn't necessarily expect. But I think people know enough about Austin now to know it's, you know, it's kind of its own place and different than the stereotypes. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I've always found in Austin, I love it. And I've shot a lot of other places around the world too. Yeah. But I think it's especially high on the trust and the understanding someone's doing something creative. People want to come aboard and help. They see something positive in it. And just there's a certain openness. And I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things in our show that while there are rescues everywhere that I think are kind of unique, you know, the pig pageant, we have a bat rescue. I don't know, the no kill. I'm just, I'm always kind of proud of what I think makes Austin unique. And, its influence in that way. I think it's a force for good. And there's so many wonderful people in Austin. And this is a portrait of some of the people I think are, just the best kind of people. I don't know any other way to say it. So,
was there an episode that you found like particularly challenging to crack in terms of the personalities, so that if all of these animal lovers, they have this great spirit, you don't want them to have the same tone necessarily in every individual piece?
That was interesting. I think because of the different rescue operations and the different people, it went a lot of, I don't know, guys, do you think was there a sameness to any of it that we were battling? I don't think so.
I don't think there's a sameness. I do think there's a universality in some of the stories that we're seeing. And I think for myself, I live in New York, so I call myself a New Yorker now. But for me being out in Texas filming this for a few months just before the pandemic hit, our last day of principal photography was really, was March 12th. So really right at the cusp of it. Yeah, the pig pageant was just weeks before, right? So I think it was such a joy and a delight to spend time with these kinds of humans and these kinds of animals and see just, how much similarity there really is in our world and in our passions, and to see people living out their passions and find them. Sometimes when they expected never to, right? Like as Alayne was saying, to get a second chance. And it was just really restorative to have that between before months of lockdown and quarantine and this election. So I don't know if there's, I wouldn't say sameness, but I think there's something universal that rather than trying to, I mean, I think we just stuck with what's real, and I think we found enough differentiation between our stories and our characters. But we also embraced the thing that kind of, a lot of people, there's something that made you turn to this, right? Something that happened, and we wanted to tell those stories too, those human stories.
Yeah. Laura, I'm curious for Austin's Pets Alive. I mean, I was going to ask you first to give us an update on Chica, but we obviously see that update. But I'm curious, when you see, a dog like her brought into Austin Pets Alive, how much is her story maybe a little bit of a universal story of the animals that you guys deal with there, in terms of the level of need?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes Austin Pets Alive unique, is that we're a shelter full of animals that at any other, most government funded shelters would immediately be euthanized. And so, we spend, all year saving, 10,000 plus animals that anyone else would just kill. And they end up making just incredible companions. And Chica is a perfect example. I mean, anyone else probably would have immediately put her down. And that's what's so great about APA is we treat every animal like an individual, and we treat every animal, we assume that every animal wants to live, and just needs to be given the chance, frankly. So a lot of people certainly would have judged her, but if you can put yourself in her shoes and think that there's no question to me that she came from an abusive home, and that she was already in pain and terrified, had no idea where she was, she's an emergency C-section. Now she's had these babies that she ultimately even couldn't care for, just what a terrifying thing to put yourself in her shoes. So of course she's reactive. Like, I would have been reactive. Animals, they want to live. And when they think that they're at risk of dying and that you're there to hurt them, of course they're going to react to that. So for us to just off the cuff decide that animal is aggressive or dangerous, to me is kind of crazy. But she's such a beautiful testament to how these creatures can not only heal, but just become incredible companions.
Mm-hmm. So let's actually show a clip of what Chica looked like when she was first brought in, and so we can see how far she's come.
This is Chica. Chica is my new foster. We're gonna call her Foster just for the sake of my marriage at the moment, but I think you will see that I probably can't live without this little girl. So she was pregnant and probably already in labor when she came to us. She had to have an emergency C-section. So I came in Monday morning to find her in a crate recovering in my office. So I quickly became her primary caregiver. Shockingly, I then realized over the next few days that I was the only person she was going to trust. And so we have, an incredible team of behaviorists here. Even they didn't feel comfortable handling her because she is terrified of men. She would just hear the sound of a man's voice and just erupt. If APA wasn't here, there's zero question she would be euthanized.
So the other thing that, other than like individual animals, the other thing that was really interesting I thought about the Austin Pets Alive episode is the scope. Like seeing what happened after the hurricane and how things opened up. And obviously you're talking about trauma that these dogs have lived through, and that's its own form of trauma. How does that kind of event, now matched with the platform that the organization is given from a show like this, what does that do to change the perception of what the organization can do?
What I hope it does is inspire others to challenge the status quo and challenge the norm. And I think that's what this organization has done, is that we, I think Dr. Jefferson kind of hit on the fact that as a veterinarian, she was told, okay, the best thing we can do for these animals is to kill them. That's the best thing we can do for these animals. And that didn't sit right with her. And so she just challenged, why? Someone might love this cat, someone might love this dog. And so I think the fact that when we all come together as a community, we can actually save lives. And the fact that now shelters are emptying because people are lonely, they're hurting, and they want that unconditional love that only an animal can truly give you. I think they realize that I hope people realize we don't need to kill these animals just because they're a little mangy or they've got some ringworm or maybe a little bit of baggage they got to work through. Like, that's okay. They can be incredible companions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the timing of this show felt unexpectedly perfect. Like, we're all in lockdown in our homes. A lot of us are very lonely. A lot of us maybe have a pet that we're like fighting with because we're spending too much time. I'm not speaking for myself. It's fine. And we get this show and we see, like, look at what can happen and look at how your hearts can open. And so I'm curious if you guys have heard from viewers about this time or not this time, quite frankly, like what they have learned from the show about their own capacity or their own animal's capacity, for anybody who might have heard from viewers.
I mean, I think that one of the things I've heard is it's just a welcome break from the current content machine, the doom scrolling and the and the politics and just how divided we are. So I think that's been a big factor. I think that's been a big reaction. I think also people are surprised by the amount of animals, especially, people I've seen or heard from in New York who, dogs and cats are more common, but pigs, they learned a lot, as Rick said, sorry, there's an education in those 2 episodes around the personalities of pigs and dynamics. I have heard a friend of mine who fosters, but never has been able to kind of keep an animal because of her travel schedule, said, it really reminded me of how much I enjoy fostering and how sad I am every time I say goodbye to an animal. And it made me think of the families who take in animals from APA who foster, very generously, knowing that they won't even be there to see Chica, sometimes on the other end of how happy she is now.
Yeah.
I think, to add to, I think it's a bit of a balm that people need in these troubled times. I mean, I had an email from a friend who was watching it during the election returns and said it was exactly what she needed. And I think that, I think that there's so many amazing people that we encounter in doing a show like this. And if you think about it, you want to celebrate these people and these relationships. Look, I remember years ago reading about, someone was standing on the subway platform in New York and a person fell over and that person dived onto the tracks and covered the person as a car went over, and you thinking, wow, that's so great. We all hope, that we'll do that in the times of crisis. We all hope that somehow in us that, there is this side that you'll do the right thing. Well, this is a show filled with people who are doing that right thing. People who have taken challenging, things to do. I mean, if you think about, if you look at Chica in the clip you saw, a lot of people would say, something, that's a big challenge, but these are people that go and embrace the challenge. We have people, as Rick referred to earlier, Austin has a bat sanctuary. Bats are kind of getting a bad rap these days, but they haven't stopped the fact that they're rescuing bats, right? I mean, I just think that there's something about the people who do this that, really kind of is warm, and we're hoping to capture it. So, in answer to your question, the feedback we're getting is, hey, this is a pretty good time for a show like this, given all the terrible stuff going on in the world.
I mean, speaking with, you started with pigs, you have bats, you have horses, you have dogs, you have all these different animals. What is the future? Are there organizations you have on your radar for more episodes? Should CBS say go ahead? Were there people maybe left on the cutting room floor already that you say, you know what, there's a story here?
I think there are many strong stories. I mean, we love being in Austin. I mean, Austin, has so many great stories. I mean, we haven't really gone down that road, but we just felt like there's so many to tell here. So it's one of the real joys about being in Austin.
Yeah, we were encountering some really good stories there toward the end, just as time was running out, really for what we were shooting, but it was still coming to us. So it gives us the feeling that there's probably an infinite amount, of stories and wonderful people out there. So
yeah. And animals that we haven't met yet, that animals that may or may not be in Texas.
Yeah, my feedback I've gotten is like, I think, that saying, every dog is a therapy dog, so it's kind of like this show, I think, has the same therapeutic quality. There's a lot of people who have dogs and cats, but in their lives, particularly the more urban, they just really don't have encounters with a wide variety of animals. So I love it when people's thinking can expand, because we love our dogs and cats, as we should. But, why should we look, if a pig has something wrong with it or any number of other animals, they're just, it's good to encounter people who think that there is a sanctity of life for all living things and that no one's discardable for any reason. And I think it's good to encounter that, in people you see and admire and see how they live. And then it just becomes a choice how you're going to view it. So I love that these thoughts can get out there,
Yeah, excellent. Well, we love it. Obviously, fingers crossed. Hopefully there's going to be more coming. But for now, you can watch all episodes of the first season of that animal rescue show on CBS All Access. So thank you guys for letting me do this. First of all, thank you for being here. And thank you to everybody watching at home.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.